Welcome to Some Awesome Games, good looking people. I'm Rob. Today we're going to do a little review on a little movie called Antman by Marvel Studios and Disney. I saw this earlier in the week with Disney and I enjoyed it a lot. It was a very funny movie. I apologize that this is just an audio review. Didn't have time to set up and do a proper sit down one. Time is against me, so you didn't get to see my beautiful face. But you do get to hear my voice and tell you about all this movie and all this jazz. What is Antman? Who is Antman? Well, we got Paul Rudd playing Scott Lang. He is a cat burglar, kind of like a Robin Hood style dude. So he's a good guy, and he gets sent to prison, and now he's out. That's the movie. He gets out of prison. He wants to turn his life around, but he can't get a job because he's an ex-con. Makes it a little difficult. Though he is a nice person, and he's trying to impress his daughter, you know, be a real dad for her. But she's living with his ex-wife and her fiancé. So I think times are difficult for Scott Lang. Things are not going great for Paul Rudd. Along comes Hank Pym. Hank Pym was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., the original Ant-Man. He created a formula that can shrink down atoms and basically make a person tiny with the help of a suit that he created. And he started Hank Industries, found a protege called Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll, who you may know from House of Cards. And Hank Pym, of course, is Michael Douglas. So we've got these two. They've kind of had a bit of a falling out. They're not the best of friends, though Darren Cross really wants to impress Hank Pym. He's taken over his company. Hank doesn't work there anymore. He's taken over Hank Pym's company. And he wants to recreate the Ant-Man formula, which he believed was a myth. But he suspected that Hank Pym was an Ant-Man at some point in time. So he creates this formula. All shit breaks loose because now he's about to create weapons. Like little tiny army soldiers wearing suits and going tiny. Because they all have super strength, lasers, and crazy stuff. So we've got to stop that. So Hank Pym recruits cat burglar Scott Lang to become the Ant-Man for him. And basically break into his old workplace, steal the suit, and destroy all the data so no one can ever become tiny except for Scott Lang in his new Ant-Man suit. We also have Evangeline Lilly plays Hope, Hank's daughter. Pretty useless. There's this whole mystery of, oh, what happened to my mother died, I hate you. There's basically daddy issues in the movie. You've got Scott Lang and his daughter, whole issue there, he kind of wants to impress her, laughs hard. Now we've got Hank Pym and Hope Pym, who are just like, oh, we hate each other, I'm sorry. And then we've got Darren Cross, Jerk Burger McGee, just a dick for the sake of being a dick. Like, they take shortcuts to make this guy the villain. And it's just like, he's a dick. He has no backstory kind of thing. But he has daddy issues. He wants to impress Hank Pym. He's like, why don't you love me, Hank? You're not my dad, but I really want to impress you. But the movie's funny. So that's the basic plot. Like, of course, superhero stuff, usual thing, bad guys save the world. That's the generic plot. But it's a very funny movie. Paul Rudd has like this little group of dudes he pulls off heists with. And Michael Pena is one of them, and he is hilarious. Like, you look at Thor, you take Thor, like, you've always got the comic relief, you've got Kat Dennings in that. She's batting an average of, like, 1% of her jokes land. So, like, maybe half a joke you think is going to be funny, and then it doesn't land anyway. So that's, like, her batting average in the Thor movies. Michael Pena is just hilarious throughout this thing. He is, like, is batting an average of 100%. Everything he says is hilarious. No, whenever he's on the screen, it's just comedy gold. Just on screen. I enjoyed the crap out of him. I wish he was in it more. Like, I kind of wish he was Ant-Man. Like, Paul Rudd, not to take anything from Paul Rudd, he does a fantastic job. And is hilarious in himself. But also, the CGI is amazing. If you see this movie in 3D, you will not be disappointed. This is one of those movies I recommend seeing in 3D. Because they film it macro style. So they use macro lenses to take the perspective of Ant-Man when he's tiny, which gives this great like depth of field and blurred backgrounds. Makes the 3D stand out and look incredible. The movie does feel like a smaller version of a Marvel movie. It feels cheap, though the CGI is amazing, so obviously they had a budget for that, because it is Marvel, they don't want to cheap out on you. But it does feel like a kind of small indie movie, because there's like 3 locations. You've got Hank Pym's house, you've got Scott Lang's daughter's house, and then you've got like this sci-fi office where they're trying to break into. There's like 3 locations that we see throughout this movie, again and again and again. So it feels smaller. It doesn't have that grand scale of like the Avengers flying around the world. But we do go other places, but mainly it's like locked into these 3 places. The only thing I was kind of bummed about was, you'll see in the trailers all this like great stuff with his tiny, like running around with ants and stuff. That looks amazing. That was the stuff I love. Him hanging out with the ants, like running around, training with the ants, was so good. It was a shame that it was kind of montaged through. Yes, he is tiny for long periods of time, but most of that he's flying on the back of an ant, so it's just kind of blurred out. So it's all going fast paced, so you don't really see much. So the detail when he's tiny and hanging out with these ants was my favorite stuff. But like I said, the movie's very funny. The story is very simple. It is a heist movie. Nothing really special there. The thing that saves it are the ants. The ants are cool. Everyone loves ants. The comedy saves this movie. Michael Pena, Paul Rudd, everyone is like on their A game in this movie. Even if some of them don't have a lot to work with, Evangeline Lilly and Corey Stoll. But when they are working, it's great. So I enjoyed it. It's not a huge blockbuster action movie. Don't get too like, wow, I can't wait to see all these explosions and stuff. Think of it more of a comedy. Think of it like a really good comedy, because we haven't seen a good comedy in ages. I mean, we've got Adam Sandler movies popping up, Jack and Jill, Pixels and stuff. Not much to get excited about. So this was a surprise. I didn't expect this to be straight up hilarious comedy superhero movie. So I hope you guys enjoy it if you go see it. I didn't make it, so if you don't enjoy it, don't blame me. I'm just telling you what I thought of it, and what I thought of it was I liked it. We need that decoy. This might actually be a tricky fight. We might actually need stage 3. I want Bow down before I start chowing down everyone else's health. Or I could get that guy.